Have you been considering a move to Tampa but thinking you might have missed your chance? Well, then you've got to watch this video. Hi everybody, thanks for tuning into my channel Living in Tampa, where it's my goal to show you everything you need to know about eating, sleeping, playing, and living in the greater Tampa Bay area. If it's your first time to my channel, could you do me a big favor, hit that subscribe button and ring the little bell so that you'll be notified every time that I release a new video. Today's video is something that I've been getting asked a lot lately with this crazy market that we're experiencing here in 2021. That question is, did I wait too long? Have I missed my chance to move to Tampa? That is something that I'm going to dive into today. I'm coupling this question with my top 5 tips to moving to Tampa in 2021 in this challenging market that we're facing. There's still opportunity here. It's still a great time to buy in Tampa. So I hope that you will get a lot of useful information out of this video. Let's get started. So the first thing that I'd like to talk about is the importance of working with someone that knows relocation. When you are moving here from another state, you don't want to work with just any agent. You want to be sure that you're working with an agent that has experience in relocation, that has helped other people in the same situation as yours, that knows the area very well, that's familiar with the process, all that's involved in moving from another state to Florida. There are a lot of complexities there. You don't want to leave that all to chance. So you want to make sure you're working with someone that knows what they're doing. And not to pat myself on the back too much, but I have been working in relocation for almost 13 years now. I've helped multiple families, hundreds of families move here from other states. A lot of them had to move here without coming to the area first, because I have helped a lot of military members. Military people are near and dear to my heart. My family has a long history of military, with my husband having served in the Navy for 21 years, my father being in the Army for 26 years. So I have helped a lot of military members move here. I don't know if you know, but Tampa has a huge military presence with MacDill Air Force Base, beautiful base. And it is a joint command, so there are all services that come here to this area, and I have helped hundreds of military families with that transition, and I'd love to help you too. So if you are relocating, that would be one of my main things that I would urge you to do, is make sure that you talk with the agent that you are considering working with. Make sure they have that experience of working in relocation. So my top 5 tips for moving to Tampa in 2021. What I'm going to go over first and foremost that's on everyone's mind is employment. So when you're moving, obviously you still have to have a job. There's a lot that goes into that, a lot that you need to consider before just pulling the trigger. So you don't want to just make a move without talking to someone about that first. And most importantly, you need to be talking with a lender that knows the ins and outs and what's going to help you achieve your goals of making the move to Florida. So if you currently have a job and now you're able to work remotely, I get a lot of people that call and say, well, I can work remote, so I'm going to move to Florida. Well, that's great, but if you don't have something from your employer showing that you are able to work indefinitely from home, that could come into play when you're trying to get pre-approved for a mortgage. So you don't want to just assume that because you've worked from home and your employer is allowing you to work from home, that that's going to stay that way forever. It is something that you do need to address with your employer. It's something that you need to talk to a lender about to see how that would work out with you qualifying for a loan. Another thing is, if you're changing jobs, like what's the best way to do that? Some people, they want just a brand new fresh start when they move to Florida. They don't want to, maybe do the same job that they've done in the past. And that's great. I'm all about making a fresh start and, starting with a clean slate and all of that. But it may not be the best thing to do to move here without the house, already in place and starting a new job. Because if you are starting in a new line of work, a lot of times you might need an entire 2 years of work history in order to qualify for the loan. Now, that's not always the case. And let me caveat all this by saying that I'm definitely not in the mortgage industry, so I don't know near as much as the people that I surround myself with. But I do have excellent lenders that I am happy to connect you with that can help talk with you, help you decide what is the best way for you to make the move here. Would it make more sense to maybe buy the house first while you're still employed there? You might have to buy it as a second home, put a little bit more money down, but it would still help you achieve that goal of moving here. So there's lots of different ways that we can get to your goal. But the main thing is that you've got to be talking with people that know what they're doing and who are trying to help you. And I would love to help you do that. So the second thing that I get asked a lot, and one of my pro tips for relocating to the Tampa area, would be where to stay. So a lot of times during this transition period, you're either waiting for your home to close if you're already under contract, or maybe you're moving here first and you're going to look for a home once you arrive here in the area. So you might want to think about renting. Some people decide they want to do a short-term rental. Short-term rentals can be really expensive. Shorter term is usually a lot more than an annual lease would be. You've got, deposits and cleaning fees and all these kind of things that come into play. So sometimes that's not the best solution. I find that a lot of people would rather be investing their hard-earned money into an actual home they're going to own rather than, investing it in this short-term rental. So what I have been finding to work quite well, and that several of my customers have been doing here as of late, is just utilizing Airbnbs or VRBOs. A lot of times if you are renting them for a little bit longer period of time, you might be able to negotiate with the seller to get a lower rate. Not the seller, the owner, to get a little bit lower rate on the rental if you're going to be in there for 2 or 3 months, because they're not going to have to be advertising the property. They're not going to have as much going on with it if you're going to be there longer term. So that might be something that would work well. I actually had a situation with a buyer just recently where they stayed in an Airbnb for it was about 3 months, and all of their belongings had arrived a little bit earlier than was expected. They were moving here from California, and they were actually able to ask the owner if they could just keep their belongings in the garage, because this particular home had a really large garage. The owner was amenable to that, and it saved them a lot of money on storage costs. So, that's not always going to happen, of course. We don't have owners that are always that willing to allow you to do things like that. But sometimes it can definitely work out to be a win-win situation for everyone. And what's nice about Airbnbs is, the flexibility of that. So if you sign a short-term lease, you might have to sign for a certain period, say 6 or 7 months. Well, what happens if you're able to close early and then you can't get out of that, that lease? So it does make it difficult to have that rigid time frame. And of course, the cost of it being kind of overwhelming in Tampa to get a short-term lease. I've priced some of them that are furnished. They can be as high as $3,000 a month. And that's not always something that people are willing to pay. Whereas if you're in an Airbnb, in an area that's not right by the beach, you're going to be able to get that a lot more affordable. Or, hey, maybe you want to take just a long vacation and spend it at the beach, and spend a little bit more money and just enjoy that time that you're in transition and live, at the beach. That sounds fantastic to me. Anyway, the point being is where you're going to stay is something that you really need to think about, and something that, can be difficult to figure out. But when you're working with the right person, we can usually help you find a good solution. And number 3 would be communication. So if you're going to be selling your home wherever you're moving from, and you're going to be buying another home here, there needs to be a lot of communication that happens between the many, many people that are involved in these two transactions. So if you're selling your home in another state, a lot of times you might have an attorney involved or a title company involved. You've got a lender involved for the buyer. You've got the buyer's agent. So many people are involved in this transaction, and that's just on the one side. Then you've also got your home here, where you're going to have your agent, your lender, a title company. We don't really use attorneys here in Florida. We use title companies, but some people still prefer to have their attorney involved, which of course is completely fine. But Point being, there are a lot of moving parts, and you really need someone that's going to coordinate all that for you, and communication is the key to that. So the selling agent here, the person that's helping you purchase your home, they really need to be in contact with your listing agent for the home that you're selling up there, so that it can all, you know, run smooth, and so that you can close on that one. Anything that happens with that one that might go wrong could affect this one. So, you know, having that communication of what's happening to keep everything running smoothly is definitely key. And now for the hard part, getting the house. So the market 2021, did you miss your chance? So it is not easy right now to buy in Tampa. For that matter, I don't think it's easy to buy anywhere in the nation from what I'm hearing on a lot of the forums and groups that I'm a part of online. I think the market is pretty tough everywhere. I mean, it's even on the news how little inventory there is. Here in particular in the Tampa area, our inventory is down 60%. Our prices have been going up. They went up about 17% last year. So that's why a lot of people are asking, did I miss that chance? Well, here's the deal. You can still get a home. You just have to be a little more patient, a little more diligent, and you do have to be willing to kind of do a little bit more than you may have done in the past. And what I mean by that is, you know, everything is kind of more in favor of the seller right now because it is a seller's market. Basic supply and demand. When there's not enough homes for sale, the price of the homes goes up and everything starts to work more in the seller's favor. So that is a seller's market. That's definitely what we're seeing here in Tampa. Most homes are getting multiple offers on them. So any way that you can make your offer more enticing to that seller, you really do have to take that extra step to do that. The first thing that's very important is which lender you use. There are some lenders that do not have a good reputation, a lot of them being online lenders, internet lenders that don't communicate. It's really advantageous to use a local lender. So if you don't know anyone in the area, I'm happy to refer you to someone that I trust, that I would use to do my own mortgage, that I know is going to do a good job for you and that has a good reputation here in the area. My lender will go above and beyond and even call the listing agent on your behalf to kind of vet you to them, to let them know that you are well qualified, you know, that they don't see any problems with your loan going through. That goes a long way in this market. Very competitive market, so anything that we can do to get an edge up on the competition, we need to pull out all those stops. Working with a local lender is one of those stops. The other would be, you know, any contingencies that you have, you need to try to clear those up. It's very hard right now to try to buy a home if you have a home to sell. Most sellers are not going to go for that, again, because they've got multiple offers on the table. If they have another offer that doesn't have a contingency, of course, they're going to prefer that. So if you have a home to sell, if you're able to sell it first and be completely finished with that before you move to the area, that will definitely go a long way in helping you be the winning bidder on a home here. Another thing that you might think about is closing costs. I still get people that are asking if the seller will pay for some of their closing costs. Quite frankly, that's just not happening in this market. We're actually kind of seeing the opposite happen. We're seeing some buyers offering to pay some of the seller's closing costs. So they're definitely not going to be open to paying buyers' closing costs in this market. If you need help with closing costs, you might have to be looking at just a little bit lower price point so that maybe you're able to offer a little above what the seller is asking. So maybe you can finance in some of the closing costs by getting a credit from the seller. But that brings me to my next point. A lot of times the offers are going to have to be a little bit higher than the listing price. Not as crazy as some other states that I'm hearing, but a lot of our homes are starting to sell for more than 100% of the list price. So you may be making an offer that's higher than what the home is listed at. And in that case, of course, it would be very difficult to also get any closing costs covered. But you do have to be cautious with that because, you know, an appraisal is going to come into play. You don't want to go crazy on that. You want to try to keep the offer price kind of in line with what the comps are showing, because you don't want to be left paying too much out of pocket if the appraisal does not come in at the purchase price. So these are all things that you can do. Another thing that is advantageous and does actually work sometimes depending on the seller is writing a nice letter to the seller. Just tell them a little bit about you, about why you like their home, you know, your family, anything like that that might appeal to the seller's tender side. Sometimes that can help too. Now, it doesn't always help, of course. It does depend on the seller. But, the last thing would be the closing date. So if you are able to be flexible on your closing date and kind of let the seller pick when is best for them to close, that also goes a long way, because if they aren't ready to be out of the home, if they have kids that need to finish school, or they have a home that they're buying that's being built that's not ready yet, maybe it's better for them to wait and close a little bit later. And if you're able to give them that free time in the home, you know, that can help you win the offer out of a lot of other buyers that may not have that ability to do that if they need to close right away. So all of these things you can take into consideration. Here's the thing, the interest rates are still so low. So even though the prices have gone up a little bit and the interest rates have gone up a little bit, we are still at historic lows. And when you look at the prices in Florida, in particular in Tampa, we are at a median price point of $350. If you compare that to where you're most likely moving from is much, much higher than that. So did you miss your chance to move to Tampa? I really don't think so. I think the prices are going to continue to go up. These low interest rates aren't going to last forever. So I think buying sooner rather than later still makes a whole lot of sense. And then for my fifth pro point about moving to the Tampa Bay area, I just kind of wanted to go over kind of like a roadmap of what to expect. In particular, if you're working with me to help you make that move here, what I always like to do is, if you are not here locally, I like to do a Zoom call with you so that I can learn a little bit more about you, your family, what you like to do, what you do for a living, what's important to you in a home, really get to know you so that I can help you to pick the areas that would work best for you. Also, what I've been doing for a lot of buyers are virtual showings. So with this pandemic and just the way that life is in 2021, we understand that you might not be able to actually physically be here in the area. So I stick my phone on my selfie stick and I go out and I show you the home just like as if you were here in person. I'm going to go above and beyond on that too. I'm going to show you the neighborhood, show you the surrounding homes. I'm going to tell you honestly what I'm smelling, what I'm seeing, any discrepancies that I think that if you were here, you might be like, oh, what is that? I am going to be really honest with you. And a lot of times I do talk people out of making offers on homes because I see things that are maybe a little alarming to me, and I see a lot, so I kind of know what to look for. So I think that, you know, these virtual showings, they're not the same as being in person, but they sure are close. And, you know, if it's something that you're comfortable with and you have to move here and it's the only way that you can do it, please know that that is an option that's available to you. And in this market, with it moving so quickly, a lot of times you're not even able to get here on a plane, you know, to see a home before it's sold, because they are selling in a matter of, you know, a day or two, sometimes even the same day that they're listed. So sometimes a virtual showing might not even be an option, but we've got ways to deal with that too, which I'm happy to discuss with you if you're curious about it. So first would be the Zoom call, second would be the virtual showings, and then coordinating everything for the closing. So what I do want to stress with all of that is you need to have some flexibility. When you are moving across the country, I know you've got a lot of stress on you, you've got a lot of things you're trying to coordinate, and you want to set up for everything to be done on, you know, the same day. Say we're closing on, let's say we're closing on May 30th and you want to move in on May 30th. Well, sometimes that doesn't always work out. So you need to have a backup plan. Things can go wrong. Sometimes the lender's package might be a little bit late. Sometimes the wire might not arrive in time for you to get the keys that same day. Sometimes times other things go wrong with title or whatnot. We just cannot plan for everything. Of course, we try to make it as stress-free for you as possible, and we definitely want you to be able to move in that same day and have everything just go super, super smooth. That's our goal. But I do want you to know that sometimes things happen, so you might have to have a backup plan. It's always a good idea to have a backup plan. But we will make sure that we get it done for you. So if you are even thinking about moving to the Tampa Bay area, please give me a call, send me a text, shoot me an email. However you want to communicate with me is fine. When it comes to moving to Tampa, I've got your back. Hey, if you haven't checked out any of my other videos, if you do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and ring the little bell. I try to make videos that are going to show you all about Tampa, all the different places around, the things that you want to do, schools, all that kind of stuff that's important to people when they're moving. So please hit that subscribe button. I hope that you found this video useful. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.